这是一条让我能触摸祖先的路。
या ठिकाणी नोकरी धंदा व व्यवसाय या संधी 12 महिने उपलब्ध असतात.
这里又中了财富。
Bu gaz quvuri bizga kirsa kelib жатыр.
I am working in wind farm and as well as for my hometown.
มีความเข้าใจซึ่งกันและกัน
I believe very soon I will see the train traveling and I use it in travel.
Brand new Asia.
Tương lai chúng ta sẽ ngày càng tốt đẹp hơn.
一带一路。
Samarkand, with a name meaning fertile land in the local Uzbek language, it's one of the great ancient cities of Central Asia. As early as the 2nd century BC, Samarkand was a gateway between China and the Western world. In the course of many centuries, travelers journeying to and from the Persian, Roman, and Arab empires would pass through the city along what we now call the Silk Road. It wasn't cavalry and spears that opened up this great trade route. Rather, it was camel teams and envoys. From its starting point in Chang'an, China's Han Dynasty capital, known today as Xi'an, the Silk Road extended westward. It crossed the kingdoms of Lolan and Khotan before reaching Samarkand. From here, it continued on to Damascus, the Persian Gulf, and ultimately the Mediterranean. But goods weren't carried only over land. Trade routes were also established on the sea. During the Tang Dynasty, a shipping route ran from Guangzhou in southern China across the South China Sea through the Malacca Strait and the Bay of Bengal to the Arabian Sea, the Persian Gulf, and Baghdad. In the mid-9th century, an Arab merchant named Sulejman sailed from the Persian Gulf to Guangzhou. In his diary, he recorded that the voyage took him 120 days. For centuries, merchants and adventurers sought to open up trade routes between East and West. Some made the attempt by land, others by sea. Often, the motivation was the pursuit of wealth. But human beings also have a natural desire to discover unknown places and learn from different cultures. When they meet in friendship, people learned the benefits can be mutual. Yang Hong lives in Chongqing. This vast city in southwestern China is the world's biggest producer of laptop computers. She herself works as a packager at a computer factory. Chongqing produces an estimated 1 in 4 of all the world's laptops. That amounted to over 55 million units in 2015. Most of them were sold abroad, with roughly half of these exports being bought by European customers. Until recently, export goods from Chongqing to Europe had first to be transported eastward across China as far as Shanghai. From there, they'd be taken by ship, south through the Malacca Strait, and then back westward, a journey that would take at least 30 days. But a regular freight train service has cut the journey time by almost half. Now, a Chongqing-made laptop can be in the hands of a European customer in just 16 days. The Chongqing to Europe route is part of a vast China-Europe rail network. It and similar services, including those from Xinjiang and Inner Mongolia, form a fast and convenient freight corridor between the Chinese hinterland and Europe. A freight corridor from the Baltic to the Pacific, a highly developed trade route linking Central Asia, the Indian Ocean, and the Persian Gulf. A modern transport network covering East, West, and South Asia. Such connectivity was the stuff of dreams in the countries of Eurasia. However, few people imagined that these dreams would ever be realized. Lung is a village near the Lao capital Vientiane. It's famous for its railway station, which has become a popular place for young couples to have their wedding photographs taken. This is Laos's Seoul International Railway Station. The only trains that ever stop here come from Nong Khai in Thailand, 3.5 kilometers away. Railways are virtually unknown in mountainous Laos. Trains are a curiosity here, seen more as tourist attractions rather than as a means of transport. In Kyrgyzstan, the coal carriers are moored at Karakol port on Lake Issyk. As a landlocked country, Kyrgyzstan is heavily reliant on Lake Issyk for its water transport. Yet the annual freight volume handled by the port is less than 50,000 tons. Kamila is a fourth grade pupil at Balakeki No. 6 primary school near Karakol. She particularly enjoys history class when the teacher talks about the Silk Road. She feels her eyes are being opened to the exciting outside world. Camila's house is opposite the main railway station, but the station is usually quiet. It serves solely passenger trains, and they only run twice a week in the summer. Camila loves drawing trains. She has never traveled on one, although she dreams of doing so one day. However, railways are scarce in Kyrgyzstan. The country only has some 400 kilometers of track, separated into two sections, northern and southern, without any connection between them. With neither its ports nor its rail network capable of handling large amounts of freight, Kyrgyzstan is heavily reliant on its roads to meet its transport needs. Yet nearly half of its 34,000 kilometers of roads are little better than gravel tracks. poor transport conditions are proving costly. Studies have shown that an inland country spends 50% more on transport than one on the coast does. The trade volume is also affected and is on average 60% lower. But a 10% reduction in transport costs can lead to a 25% increase in trade.
因为吉尔吉斯啊，从南到北啊，就一条路。如果这条路呢，遇到冬天雪崩啊，或者什么其他的地质灾害不通了，就南北这个商业行为和就是说人员旅行就彻底中断了。为了就是说再多一条大通道的情况下，形成一个国家路网，这样呢，他们决定就是说建新的一条路，南北通大通道。
In Kyrgyzstan, upgrading the highways to create an international standard road network has been included in the National Development Strategy. But for a country with a per capita national output of less than $1,300 and an underdeveloped industrial base, the challenges are enormous in terms of obtaining both funding and engineering expertise. There are other infrastructure deficiencies that developing countries need to address apart from overland transport, waterways, air transport, the electric grid, oil and gas pipelines, and communications networks all need improving. In 2014, the prestigious World Press Photo Contest was won by an image of young African migrants on the shore of Djibouti City. They are raising their mobile phones up to the night sky in an apparent attempt to receive a signal. The photograph symbolizes the hope for improved communication in the era of globalization. An interconnected infrastructure is the physical means by which personnel, goods, capital, and information flow. The aspiration of the countries along the Belt and Road routes is to facilitate this flow. The developing countries are eager to make the leap from less to more. As for the developed economies of Europe, they are keen to reap the potential economic benefits of opening a pan-Eurasia transport network. A key vision of the Belt and Road Initiative and a shared desire among the countries along its routes is a radically improved cross-border infrastructure. At Ankara's main railway station, passengers are waiting for the high-speed train. Umar is a resident of Istanbul. Many of his college friends live in Ankara, and he regularly makes the journey at weekends to visit them. The train can reach a speed of 250 kilometers an hour. The once tiring journey is now smooth and enjoyable. Little more than 2 hours later, Umar arrives in Istanbul. Ankara, the capital of Turkey, is located in the central Anatolian Plateau region. It's over 500 kilometers from Istanbul, the country's largest city. Between these two great metropolises lies an area of hills and valleys. The high-speed railway linking Ankara and Istanbul was opened in 2014. It crosses the Anatolian Plateau and extends as far as the Mediterranean coast. Of its total length of 533 kilometers, 158 kilometers was laid by Chinese engineers. Though less than a third of the overall length, this section of the railway crossed the most difficult terrain, which required blasting 37 tunnels through the mountains and building 10 kilometers of bridges across ravines. Improving the transport infrastructure has obvious benefits for the local quality of life. It can also create new fields of economic activity. This is something China has learned through its reform and opening. As a Chinese saying goes, if you want to get rich, first build a road. China has, over the past 20 years, recorded remarkable achievements in developing its transport and communications networks and in urban construction.
China's, by example, is a leader in infrastructure, and it's a leader in creating the infrastructure and in getting the society together to support the infrastructure. So it's remarkable what's happened here the last 20 years.
China has by far the most extensive high-speed railway network in the world. In just 7 years, up until the end of 2015, the country had put 19,000 kilometers of high-speed track into operation, accounting for over 60% of the world's total. From track design and construction to train operation and signaling, China has built a comprehensive technological basis for its high-speed rail system. China is expanding its infrastructure at a faster pace than any other country in the world. In October 1988, the country completed its first expressway. By the end of 2015, the expressway network nationwide extended for 108,000 kilometers. 10 years ago, China's mainland had only 7 subway lines with a total length of 146 kilometers. By the end of 2015, 112 urban rail transit lines with a total length of nearly 3,300 kilometers had been built in 25 Chinese cities. China is home to 7 of the world's 10 biggest container ports. In 2015, Shanghai Port, with an annual handling capacity of 36.54 million TEUs, ranked first in the world. China has, in recent years, transferred its expertise in infrastructure construction onto the world stage. In areas like railway, highway, subway, and port construction, increasing numbers of Chinese enterprises are working in developing countries to improve their transport and communications connectivity.
China has tremendous human resources. China has had a very fast learning curve in terms of new technologies. China has huge technological resources. China has invested in research and development and innovation. And I think sharing that kind of experience with its partners would be extremely helpful to developing the future initiative. So China has a lot to bring, not just capital, but human resources, know-how, technological ability, innovation.
Jeddah, the chief port of Saudi Arabia, is located 70 kilometers east of the holy city of Mecca. Since the 17th century, pilgrims passing through Jeddah have made it a prosperous transit port. Ahmed's family make a living from selling food and drinks to the pilgrims.
المدينة المنورة إلى مكة كانوا يجون على حيوانات زي الحمير زي الجمال زي الحصان فكان تاخذ رحلة الحج طويلة مشقة طويلة يعني وقت طويل يعني قبل ما يعني يجي من المدينة إلى مكة يقومون فرائض الحج فريضة الحج ياخذ وقت طويل في بعض الناس يعني يموتوا في الطريق في بعض الناس ما يقدروا يكملوا الحج في بعض الناس يجوا يكملوا الحج وكل حاجة بعد كذا لما يرجعوا في الطريق يموتوا يعني رحلة طويلة كانت في الحج.
Ahmed has chosen not to work for the family business. Instead, he has taken a job with a Chinese company constructing a high-speed railway linking Mecca and Medina. In all, the railway will be 450 kilometers long. With a designed top speed of 360 kilometers per hour, it will be the first high-speed railway in Saudi Arabia. China Railway 18th Bureau is responsible for the Mecca to Jeddah section. The company previously built Saudi Arabia's north to south line, a key part of the rail network in the whole Gulf region. It also built the Mecca Light Railway to serve pilgrims. The annual Hajj is approaching. However, the 1,500-meter-long railway bridge in Mecca isn't finished. The main structure must be completed before the pilgrims start arriving. The work is eventually completed on schedule. Ahmed and his colleagues decide they deserve a reward, so they head to the beach for a barbecue. While they are enjoying the holiday, millions of Muslims from around the world are flooding to Mecca at the start of the annual pilgrimage. Ahmed hopes that the Mecca to Medina Railway will make it possible for more Muslims to realize their dream of completing the Hajj. He also expects it to mark the opening of a new era of modern land transport in Saudi Arabia. Data suggests that the scale of investment in infrastructure construction in Asia will exceed $8 trillion. In itself, this investment will create huge business opportunities. It will also lay the foundations for Eurasia-wide economic development. Kujand, the second largest city in Tajikistan, was once an important stop on the Silk Road. A local museum showcases the history and civilization of what is one of the oldest cities in Central Asia. Among all the old exhibits, one stands out. It's the uniform worn by a Chinese road construction worker. It's associated with the story of the modern Silk Road.
Это личная одежда Саши, один из строителей китайца. И вот можно сказать, что Шахристанский туннель, который построен в 2012 году, связывает круглый год юг с севером Таджикистана. И мы все надеемся, в будущем наша дружба будет крепче между Китаем и Таджикистаном.
Tajikistan is a mountainous country. Vast mountain ranges cover 93% of its territory. The 5-kilometer-long Shakristan Tunnel lies at a key point on Tajikistan's main north-south highway. Before it was opened, the mountains were an often impregnable barrier, dividing the country in two. In October 2012, after 6 years, the China Road and Bridge Group completed the Shakristan Tunnel, the longest highway tunnel in Central Asia. Tajik President Emomali Rahmon praised the project for opening up transport in areas previously cut off by mountains. He also said it would help promote national unity by linking the country's northern and southern regions. He personally awarded medals of friendship to representatives of the Chinese workers in recognition of their efforts. The tunnel builder's uniform is exhibited at the Historical Museum of Sugd region to remind people of the contribution made by the Chinese workers. Luan Guitao is one of those awarded a Medal of Friendship by President Rahmon.
当时在这个授勋这个仪式上，塔吉克斯坦总统拉赫蒙，还特意用他的胳膊搭在我的肩上，试了试，说我要看看你这个肩膀，能不能顶得住压力，能不能为塔吉克再做一些更大的工程，完成更重要的任务。
Don Guitao and his team remained in Tajikistan working on the country's roads. In October 2013, they blasted through the Katlon Tunnel, a key section of the China-Tajikistan highway. From Dushanbe, the capital of Tajikistan, the China-Tajikistan highway climbs up into the Pamir Mountains. There, at an altitude of over 4,000 meters, it runs through the Kulma Pass into China. The village of Dungara lies on the outskirts of Dushanbe. Mr. Gulov Hillary is among a group of people who have gathered at the village entrance to watch the machinery at work. The children excitedly watch the road roller. The China Road and Bridge Group are bringing a modern road to their doorstep.
Я думаю, будет хорошо. Наши люди проходят хорошо. Дети проходят в школу. Грязи не будет, ничего не будет. Мы всегда довольны от вас, учебы.
It's noon and Camille and his colleagues are having lunch at a small roadside restaurant. 57-year-old Camille is a long-distance oil tanker driver. Camille is impressed by the sight of the large trucks constantly speeding past the restaurant.
Строили такую дорогу. Вот нам стало легче ехать на этом дороге. Хорошая дорога. Раньше ехали сутки, 1,5 сутки. Сейчас за 10-11 часов на грузовой машине ездим. С Худжанда до Душанбе.
For centuries, merchants traveling on the Silk Road from Tajikistan into China had to battle their way across the formidable and dangerous Pamir Mountains, carrying their goods with them. Today, the China-Tajikistan and Tajikistan-Uzbekistan highways are a convenient link between this landlocked mountainous country and the outside world. Almaty is the largest city in Kazakhstan. From it, a highway extends westward for 2,700 kilometers. It's called the West-West Highway because it's a key part of the transport corridor linking Western China with Western Europe. In China, it joins the Lianhua Expressway, which runs all the way to the country's east coast. In the other direction, it extends into Russia before connecting with the European highway network. Construction of the West-West Highway is part of Kazakhstan's Bright Road program. The Bright Road program was proposed by Kazakh President Nursultan Nazarbayev in November 2014. It aims at promoting the country's infrastructure development. The main priority is transport, with the plan envisaging the construction of a network integrating highways, railways, and aviation. This ambitious plan, combined with another major initiative, the Silk Road Economic Zone, will be the new engine of Kazakhstan's economic growth. Significantly, the planned highway construction alone will create 200,000 jobs. Mongolia is, after Kazakhstan, the second largest landlocked country in the world. Coinciding with the launch of Kazakhstan's Bright Road program, Mongolia rolled out a similar initiative involving 5 large-scale projects. These include the construction of almost 1,000 kilometers of high-speed railway connecting China with Russia across Mongolian territory. An additional 1,100 kilometers of electrified railways, along with oil and gas pipelines, will be laid across Mongolia to join up with networks in other countries. While these landlocked Eurasian countries are building roads and railways to increase their connectivity, the challenge for coastal countries is different. For Indonesia, at the intersection of the Pacific and the Indian Oceans, the solution is to build a maritime highway. At one time, the wharf at Surabaya would be a mass of people and vehicles every morning. They were there to catch the ferry, which departed every half an hour for Madura Island across the water. Surabaya is the second largest city in Indonesia. It's separated from Madura Island by a shallow strait, 5 kilometers across. Today, a bridge connects Surabaya and Madura Island. Built by a Chinese company, it's 5,438 meters long and has a main span of 434 meters. At one time, it was the longest cross-sea bridge in Southeast Asia. "53-year-old Sujono is a truck driver. It was a time-consuming and unpleasant experience for him, waiting in line for the ferry in the past. Life is much easier now thanks to the bridge."
Saya naik ferry sebelum Suramadu, naik perahu ferry. Sekarang ada jembatan Suramadu, sudah enak. Jadi
the cross-sea bridge has transformed a natural moat into a thoroughfare. It's the main artery connecting the economically important regions of Surabaya and Madura. Indonesia plans over the next 10 years to build 3,733 kilometers of highways, 10 airports, and 10 seaports. It will also lay a series of high-speed railways, which will connect the country's major cities, including Jakarta, Bandung, and Surabaya. The poor state of Indonesia's infrastructure has significantly inflated logistics costs, which account for an estimated 25 to 30% of GDP. This in turn limits the international competitiveness of the country's products. By improving its infrastructure, Indonesia aims to reduce the cost of transport to 19.2% of GDP in 5 years. The Karakoram Highway, one of the most impressive mountain highways on Earth. It runs like a ribbon across the Karakoram Mountains, the Hindu Kush, the Pamir Mountains, and the Western Himalayas. Starting from Kashgar in China's Xinjiang in the north, the 1,224-kilometer highway enters Pakistan at the Kunjurab Pass. Work began on the Karakoram Highway, seen as a symbol of China-Pakistan friendship, in 1966 and lasted for 12 years. Today, as part of the development of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the highway is undergoing large-scale renovation and expansion. When the work is completed, it will extend as far as Gwadar, a deepwater port on the Indian Ocean. Final preparations are being made for Gwadar Port to begin full-scale operation. Pakistan first drew up plans for a deepwater port at Gwadar as early as 1964. The project only got fully underway in 2002, when Chinese enterprises agreed to participate in the construction and development. The Karakoram Highway will eventually extend all the way from Gwadar Port in the south to Kashgar in the north. Significantly, it will link the Silk Road on land with the Maritime Silk Road. As a key part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the highway will facilitate transport between northwest China and Central Asia. Gwadar is looking forward to becoming a prosperous commercial port city. It currently has a population of less than 100,000, but in anticipation of a rapid increase, it is building an additional primary school. A new hospital is nearing completion, and work on an international airport is well underway. The expansion of its urban water supply facilities, coal-fired power plants, and electricity transmission lines is being planned. Many of the projects are being undertaken with Chinese assistance. In the planning and design of new residential districts, industrial zones, and free trade zones in Gwadar, the main point of reference has been Shenzhen. Like the southern Chinese city, this gateway on the China-Pakistan economic corridor will, it is hoped, be a major incubator of growth. This is Gwadar today, but how will it look tomorrow?
We hope that this will bring not only investments from China but from rest of the world to bring greater employment opportunities and make China-Pakistan economic corridor a success story.
Sri Lanka is an important stop on the Maritime Silk Road. Unlike the newly emerging Gwadar, Colombo is a port city with a long history. It's mentioned in ancient Chinese texts, where it's called the Lion Country. Colombo is one of the busiest ports in the world, thanks to its strategic location on the Indian Ocean. A series of expansion projects in recent years has seen the port establish itself as a major international cargo terminal. Young Sapara Madhu loves to ride his motorcycle. It's his way of relaxing from the demanding job he does. He works as a bridge crane driver at Colombo Port. It's a highly skilled job, and Sapara Madhu underwent rigorous training before he qualified. He's now recognized as one of the best at the job in the port, with a record of loading 33 containers per hour on average. The Colombo South Container Terminal, where Sapara Madhu works, is designed, constructed, and operated by China Merchants Group, a Chinese-funded enterprise with its headquarters in Hong Kong. The terminal, which opened in August 2013, has an annual throughput capacity of 2.4 million TEUs. This compares to the previous national throughput capacity of the whole of Sri Lanka of only 4 million TEUs. The opening of the South Container Terminal is helping to restore Colombo to its former glory.
අපි තමයි ආසියාතිකයෝ අපි තමයි මේ ලෝකයේ ජීවය.
Piraeus, on the eastern edge of the Mediterranean, is the largest port in Greece. It lies at the meeting point of Europe, Asia, and Africa. For China, it's a gateway to Europe. The route through the Suez Canal to Piraeus is the shortest sea passage between China and Europe. It's 7 to 11 days faster than the traditional route around the Cape of Good Hope. COSCO, the China Ocean Shipping Company, is one of the world's largest marine transport companies. In June 2008, it won the bid to operate numbers 2 and 3 container terminals at Piraeus Port for 35 years. Piraeus is today one of the fastest-growing ocean logistics ports in the world. It has been flourishing ever since China and Greece began working together to operate it. Between 2010 and 2015, container throughput at the port increased from 880,000 to 3.36 million TEUs, lifting it from 93rd to 39th place on the global list of busiest ports. shipping remains the main means of transporting commodities around the world, with 90% of exports still moved by sea. An important way of improving transport efficiency is to promote sea-rail integration. On December 17, 2014, China, Hungary, and Serbia announced that the Hungary-Serbia Railway would be extended to Piraeus port. They also revealed plans to develop the China-Europe Land-Sea Express Passage. The idea behind this new logistics route is that Chinese commodities can be sent directly to Central and Eastern Europe by rail after arriving at Piraeus by ship. While Central and Eastern Europe can look forward to reaping the benefits of the Land-Sea Express Passage, in Africa, another rail project is underway. It's the largest railway project undertaken in Kenya since independence. The 480-kilometer railway connects Mombasa, the main port in East Africa, and Nairobi, the Kenyan capital. With its completion, journey time between the two cities will be reduced to 4 hours from the current 10. The track has been laid and the railway, built jointly by Chinese engineers and 30,000 local workers, will soon begin operation.
又漂亮，而且投资还要省。
In Russia, engineer Zhang Shuichai is discussing the blueprint for a new high-speed railway. The route will link Moscow with Kazan, an industrial city lying in the middle reaches of the river Volga. It is the first segment of a planned high-speed rail link between Beijing and Moscow. Zhang Shuichai works for the China Railway's Second Survey and Design Institute. As part of a consortium with several Russian companies, the company won the bid to plan and design the railway.
莫卡高铁全长呢是770公里，最高设计速度是400公里每小时，那么这个到目前为止应该是全世界最高标准的高速铁路。
Elsewhere, an energy link extending for thousands of kilometers is being built, linking a famous city on the Silk Road with China's most modern metropolis. Ms. Huang lives in an old lane in Shanghai's Changning district. She prides herself on her cooking, particularly the local specialties. But while working in the kitchen, she gives no thought to where the natural gas she uses comes from. In fact, it's Central Asia. The Central Asia-China gas pipeline is the longest gas pipeline in the world, known as the Energy Silk Road of the New Era. It originates in Turkmenistan and crosses Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan before entering China. En route, it passes through Samarkand and several other historic cities on the Silk Road.
原来的丝绸之路的物流的方向是由东向西，我们这条管道呢，因为是购买中亚的天然气，输送到中国，所以我们的物流方向呢是由西向东。不管怎么说，它也是一条通道。
Korgos, on the China-Kazakhstan border, is over 4,000 kilometers away from Shanghai. At the end of each month, Otherlan, a Kazakhstan customs official, comes to check the gas flow data. The metering station is located on the outskirts of Korgos. According to an agreement between the two countries, at midnight on the last day of every month, officials from Kazakhstan and China meet at the station to check the gas volume data for the month. The pipeline through Korgos was China's first gas pipeline project jointly operated with another country. Its total length is 9,000 kilometers. By November 2014, the total volume of gas channeled through the pipeline to China had exceeded 100 billion cubic meters. A Apart from gas pipelines, another means of promoting energy circulation is through power grid connectivity. On a wooded mountainside, 3 patrolmen cut their way through the forest. They are here to inspect the power lines. This is a regular job they've been doing ever since the northern power grid was installed in Laos. On November 29, 2015, China's Southern Power connected Luang Prabang to Laos's national power grid. This meant that the country's northern region was finally integrated into the electric supply network. After nightfall, the banks of the Mekong are lit up. This ancient land is glittering beautifully. Quietly, Laos is undergoing massive change. Bulgan in Kovda Province, Mongolia, lies across the border from Qinghil County in the Altai district of Xinjiang in China. In 2009, with the completion of the Kovda transmission project, 20,000 residents of Bulgan and its neighboring districts were supplied with electricity. Ayushi is the manager of the Bulgan County Power Supply Company. It's early morning, and he's waiting at Yarant on the Mongolian side of the border to welcome an old friend from China. Wang Chongxin is the director of the Yarant Power Station in Qinghil. He regularly travels across the border to Bulgan to inspect the power lines. He and Aoyushi are the same age, and over the years they have become firm friends.
有一天晚上，突然就是阿旭给我打电话，说是他们的那个电压互感器烧了。接到电话以后，第二天早上我就是赶早就过来一看，看完以后，当时他们这个变电所这个35千伏互感器在我们国家已经不产了。这个当天下午返回去以后就开始多方联系，最后联系到就是湖北的一家，湖北一家人家也不生产了，不生产，最后把这个情况特殊情况给他讲了以后，反正厂家挺好的。 就说可以，就是我们给你就是赶做一做。
The transmission line is 65 kilometers in length, with 47 kilometers of it in Mongolia. For people used to a primitive existence on the grassland, the electricity transformed their lives. Patel, a herdsman, is so grateful he invites Wang and Aoyushi to spend Christmas with his family.
Тоггүй бид нар амьдрал байхгүй юу? Та бүхэнд их баярлж байгаа тогтоо болгосон маш их баярлалаа. Дахин баяр хүргье.
За баяраа. 希望是我们
24小时365天天天有电.
자, 봐라. 자.
In Bulgan, Wang Chongxin is famous. At dinner, Batal gives him a traditional Mongolian gown and wishes him good fortune and safety in the coming year. Xi says his friendship with Wang is like wine, improving with time.
Бид хоёр хэдийгээр одоо хоёр улсын иргэн боловч сэтгэлээрээ одоо нэг нутгийн ах дүүс шиг тийм сайхан одоо хандлагаар нэг нэгэндээ хандж ирсэн. Бид хоёр өнөөдөр бол насахад явж байна. Удахгүй бид хоёр бол одоо ажил хэрэгснийхээ эцэст одоо тэтгэвртэ гарнаа. Тэтгэврт гарсан ч гэсэн хамтдаа хоёулаа уулзаж учирч хоорондоо өнгөрөөсөн амьдралаа
From the southeast coast of China to the Mediterranean, from the Pacific Ocean to the Indian Ocean, roads, pipelines, power lines, and communications networks are connecting countries. By ignoring geographical obstacles and national boundaries, they are bringing people closer together. Connectivity makes trade thrive, cities prosper, and communication flourish. On December 9th, 2015, the maiden flight of a Hainan Airlines service to Rome took off from Xi'an. Xi'an and Rome are two ancient capitals, one in the east and the other in the west. Xi'an is the starting point and Rome the finishing point of the ancient Silk Road. After a dozen centuries in which trade along it has flourished, this commercial route between Xi'an and Rome is paved with memories of the political, economic, and cultural exchanges between East and West. In the past, it could take years to cross the mountains and rivers on the Silk Road. Today, it takes less than 12 hours to fly from Xi'an to Rome. This new air bridge is a sign that the Silk Road is entering the modern era. As a new form of connectivity, it represents another step towards the realization of the Belt and Road Blueprint.